hello. And this is a really warm hello because this is actually quite a moment. I mean, yes, this is what, 19 years, is it now? It's a big day today when the Chris Eccleston and Billy Piper relaunched our series in 2005 on the 26th of March. So it's a big day in Doctor Who anyway. It's a big day for the Sense Sphere because since we launched in mid-December, we've been plugging along, doing our debates, which I think have got traction with a lot of people, and we've started doing reviews, and we have a specific approach. And today is very special because we do our very first simulcast with Timescales channel, and we'll bring him on in a moment to talk about that. But basically, it's the Power of the Doctor review today. And I'm inclined to say also it's a very special day because I'm very, very inclined to put this story into special measures. You'll see our criteria. I was bored. I was upset. I felt my blood draining from my eyes. I had a blazing headache. And I'm a fan. We judge each story, not by a meandering moan or eulogy fest. We want a set criteria that you judge a story on, okay? We want to be clear on that so anybody new to us. So, of course, criterion 1, as we call it, we judge basically, is the program safeguarded by what you see? Consistent characterization, all the rest of it. And that might be amazing. That might be outstanding. That doesn't mean we're going to say overall it's outstanding because you judge on 3 criteria. Range of resources, actors, directing, visual effects, the music, name what you want. We judge it on that. And then on the last one, of course, the key one is, does it engage the audience? Does it excite us? Does it thrill us? Does it make us laugh? Depending on what the program is designed to do, we judge it on those 3 criteria. Now, judging it on those 3 criteria means that obviously, there's going to be, let me just kind of set this up. It's not playing ball. There you go. So I looked at this episode and I actually thought, on visual effects, on various things like that, it was outstanding. I also thought, though, that actually it was in special measures for its safeguarding of the program, consistency of character, blah, 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 blah. And I also thought it was in special measures for actually the engagement. As I said, I was so bored. So that's where I stand, but I need to bring in my panel to discuss this fairly and see if I can be persuaded, because we are on this channel, we are open, we are passionate, we will debate, we will argue, we'll always stay friends, and that's what fans should be doing out there, by the way. And of course, we are open to persuasion. We don't have a closed mind, but that's where I feel at the moment, I'll be honest with you. So, okay, let's say hello, hello, hello. And because this is, of course, a simulcast, I need to bring in Timescales, of course. Hello.
Good morning, Brendan. How are you doing?
Well, you've heard, I'm already over it.
I think our opinions of this episode differ, so this will be fun.
Well, that's good. And that's the very point of this. So cool.
Right.
And of course, we've got Noel, who's also got his own channel. He'll mention this and I'll advertise it as we go through. Hiya, Noel.
Hello, everybody.
And of course, I know Noel because I've looked at your channel again just for the sake of this program. And you've already done Power of the Doctor. You did a watch along, didn't you?
Yep. Watch along and then a review panel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're well rehearsed on this.
Yeah. I didn't bother watching it again though.
But you know you Scott. Yeah, and it's
I
fair.
just couldn't bother. I remember it pretty well anyway, so it's yeah. I think people will be surprised by my reaction.
Okay. And we've got to bring in Hugh. Nice to see you back. He's one of our original panelists and he's back. So hiya, Hugh.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for all the good wishes from everyone. Much appreciated.
Welcome back.
We thought so well of you that we said, could you review Power of the Doctor? So I don't know if that makes you feel any worse watching that again, but we'll find out. We'll find out. And of course, there she is, our historian in the corner there. Hiya, Michelle.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle.
Feeling good about this episode?
Just you wait.
We've got it's like our cliffhanger episode again, isn't it? Just you wait. We'll soon find out. Okay, and of course, is he coming back on after those? Yeah. Well, He is coming back on. Hiya, John.
Hello. Mwah. Michelle. Mwah. Greg. Mwah. And everybody else. Mwah. Brendan. Mwah.
This
Good
new
morning,
style.
John.
This new style.
Feel the love.
This is the new John, apparently. I don't know. No, anyway, sorry, just for a second. So, simulcast, 2 channels in one here, and we're doing a review of The Power of the Doctor. And just to give you just a few quick niceties, that's how you can reach to the Sensphere on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and email us. You can find us live streaming on Sundays at 7 p.m. and Tuesdays, obviously, at 4 p.m., as you can well see now. But this is probably why, you know, we were all tentative, because if you did watch the last few minutes of Wild Blue Yonder's stream last Tuesday, we've received an Ofcom complaint. Now, for those American viewers, they're the bigwigs in communications and broadcasting in this country, and they're not happy that they thought we were the complaint is it was animus panelus terribilis, that the panel were showing animus to each other, and that was terrible broadcasting. So there you go. So I've had to change how we do the program now, you see, that I'm sad to say. So I've got to explain to the panelists, and I'm obviously part of this as well, that there are sanctions available. Either you can be tied up outside a monastery in Tibet and await your fate with the Yeti. That's one possible sanction that we're aware of. Or you could just end up being victims of the vervoids. There you go. I don't think they'll take any prisoners. And then, of course, you just could have that kind of sweet kiss from Missy, basically classically stabbed in the back. So, John, on that score, hiya, did you get the parcel from me?
I did, but you told me not to open it till now.
Oh, well, now's a good time.
Oh, right, okay. Right, hold on. Oh, what does it say? It says, in case of headaches. Oh, right, okay.
I'm very caring. That's it. Ofcom have now cleared us of all complaints. There you go. That's it. I feel as though the program's going to improve now. Hey, no,
when he rips it off, you can also get a little waxing done through here too.
Yes.
Now you know what women have to deal with.
Brendan, I was about to say
yes.
that I might have preferred the getting chained up outside a monastery. Some of those lads are very nice.
Well, not if you watch the animation.
Well, yeah, I met a few crafty monks, but that's another story.
Well, that's it. Yeah, so there you go. I didn't know where you were going to go with that.
No, neither did I.
I mean, the thread, yes, the thread knows us from last week. You know, Archibald Lazarus, perhaps Brendan ate humble pie. But I don't look that fat, do I? Bloomin' hell. So, let's have a look. And of course, if by any chance there's another debate that goes out of control, cherish the thought with the Sensphere, we have to put a test card up according to the Ofcom. So I need to put up that normal service will be resumed as soon as Gallifrey is contacted. If that one isn't apt, I need to put up normal service will be resumed as soon as we decide who's right. You can decide out there which one's John, which one's me. Normal service will be resumed when I calm the atmosphere. Yes, I've been told I've got to hover over the mute button and get a more powerful mic. And no, there we go. We're all still back. It's the Sensphere after all, and it is all about uniting fans and not dividing fans. And John is a new man. No, with his plaster. Oh, sorry, but because of that, it's affected our quiz results, John. Sorry about this. Nothing to do with me. But the quiz results have had to be changed. So you've been docked 10 points.
Wait a minute. Excuse me. Can I just interject for a second? Surely that was not a minus. Is there any source or court of appeal?
Sorry. You need to go. It's a very complicated email address. I'll get it for you later. It's got lots of X's and Z's and stuff.
Okay. I look forward to that.
I just thought it was at thevaliard.com.
Yeah. Go trial of a time panelist.
So actually, obviously, we're not going to be like that. With the scores are actually as they stand there. So if you have a look there, so Michelle's the leading the pace there. There's John on 2, and we've got everyone else, and Hugh's now joined us. So basically, it's all to play for in our quiz that warms us up before we do the Power of the Doctor. So all I need to ask though, and of course, as Noel said before, this is a bit of a, who goes first, second, and third can be tricky. So do you want ladies first, Michelle? I'm not leading you, but do you want ladies first?
Sure. I mean, that's easy.
Okay, then. Here we go, then. So here's yours. Which story is this?
Horror Fang Rock?
That's a fair guess. Do you want to go down to 2?
Sure.
Oh,
I moved it an inch.
2 points or 2 millimeters.
Robots of Death?
And what I will say to you, Michelle, is if I pulled it much further, obviously it does look as I've only crept it a little bit. It gives it away because if you're looking at that in the bottom left, that's the key.
I'm gonna have to pass on this one.
Okay, I'll come down to 1 though. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Go to John.
So John, you can see why I couldn't move it much.
Is it Brain of Morbius?
It is Brain of Morbius.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, beautiful picture. I absolutely
It
love
is.
that
It
picture.
is very
That is
beautiful.
excellent.
Yes. So I've just added your score on there. So time scales. Do you want to go second, maybe?
Okay, sure.
I'm not fixing this, by the way. I'm just asking because Right. Okay. 3 points. I'll go big screen just so you can have a look.
Oh boy. I think this is a John Pertwee era story. Or no, maybe not. I'm stumped, Brendan. I think I might have to stay at 0.
No, don't worry. You've got a chance for 2 points. It just goes out a little bit, and then the third one should really help you. It is when we were in colour, so we're after 1970s.
Right.
We're after 1970. Somebody's put down the web. Oh, sorry, Culture Pop B.
Yeah,
I can never
I was
say.
thinking along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, Web Planet. Crimpling says Planet of the Spiders.
I'm gonna go with Culture Pop's hint, Web Planet.
Yeah.
Okay. Never listened to him. No, that's there we go. So, for 1 point, it was seen at the time. Actually, you can see the studio behind at the back there. But this was nominated timescales by the then producer.
Oh yes, got it.
For being one of the best sets, and it should have been up for BAFTA. So that's just help your timescales a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still stumped. I do not have it.
Crimpling's got it.
Crimpling's got it. And did anyone in the panel actually really have it?
Of course I did. For an extra 5 points, I got it, yeah.
Right. So here we go. There it is. Planet of Evil.
Planet of Evil.
Yeah, that was it. So let's just see where we go next. So who wants to go next? We've got John, Noel, and Hugh.
I'll get it over with.
Okay, get it over. Do it. Okay, then. So here we go.
No.
Okay. Look to the left.
It's not the Shakespeare Code, is it?
Well, we kind of the set is kind of that period. I mean, Crimpling says the Visitation.
No, I thought that too because it looks a bit mock Tudor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'll go down to 1, Hugh.
Oh yeah, got it.
Oh.
Nah. I'd be Well, Betsy, I'd be guessing, but that's obviously what I meant to do. Is it Vampires in Venice?
It's not, but I mean, look, a guess is as good as we get here. John is clearly going for it. Go on, John.
Face the Raven.
Face the Raven. That's spot
right.
on. Yeah, you can see Clara there as she faces the Raven. Yeah. So that leaves us with, I mean, Noel, sorry, not Noel. John, you're scoring well anyway. So shall I have meet Noel next there?
Yes, that Noel in.
Okay,
Yeah.
Noel. Now, it does get better, Noel. So the first one I've been fair with, like with everyone else, but you know, it's from the 70s. I'll help you there.
Oh, for God's sake.
The words right out of my mouth.
I take that as you'll go down to 2.
I wondered if it was a piece of rock fall, but hopefully not.
Oh, I know. I know.
Oh,
Sugar. Nope.
I know.
Okay, don't worry. Hopefully this one will help you. If you look at the very top, I know you can see the red, but above where it says 1 point, you'll see something, Noel. It might help.
Oh, is it it's Genesis of the Daleks, is it?
It's Genesis of the Daleks. Noel, we've got you off we're off and running.
Damn, though.
You're gonna come flying back now. Right, okay, John, are you ready? You've scored well already.
This is when it all goes belly up.
It is because it's the puppets.
Oh, gosh.
Oh,
So,
All right.
so we've got the Who puppets. You obviously, I don't know how to explain this, but I got the shot just about right, I think. And if you're worried about angles and stuff, there you go. I've tried to help. If you think there's two big structures at the back, 2 big things, and then you've got a female. That's all I'll say.
A female with 2 big structures at the front.
Yeah. So
Like Carry On movie.
So
Is it hold on? Is it I'm just guessing here. Is it Smile?
I think it's a fair guess. Has anyone got anything in there? Well, because I'll rattle through. John, you'll see.
Orphan 55. Orphan 55.
We're in the right time period, I have to say. It's obviously the Timeless Child.
Oh yeah.
Because you've got the 2 pillars. I mean, the puppets are trying. You can't criticize them. I mean, they really did try. But
Yeah.
so John, one more go. Here we go. One more go, and then we get on with the power of the Doctor. Ready? This is a really good one. I think you'll get this in seconds.
Right, come on, John.
Oh, it's the androids of Tara.
No.
The Doctor's fishing with Romana. At the
Well,
side.
there's another story I was actually thinking about with the Who.
Oh, the 2 Doctors.
Yes, the 2 Doctors.
Did I get double points because I found a story with both the Doctor and
I'm
Companion?
going to give you 2 points, no, because you've picked 2 fishing stories. But there you go. If anybody's wondering what we were trying to do, the Who puppets thought that was genius to do that one. So there we go. So we've warmed up now. My gosh, John, you had a good day after being docked points and everything. So our panel is clear. We are quite hot to trot on Doctor Who. We've now got to move into the dodgy territory of talking about Power of the Doctor. I should stay as open-minded as possible because that's our MO on the channel. Now, those of us new to us, maybe on the simulcast with timescales, if you haven't seen us before, when we do a review, we start with the burning issues. We start with everybody comes up with something that really aggravated them. So before we go into all the criteria and really mention anything you want, we mention something that really bothered us. So we need to look at the burning issues. Okay. Okay, so since this is a shared simulcast, timescales. I know it sounds as though you're going to be more kind of positive than me on this story, but is there anything in the story you thought was problematic, though?
No. and it looks like this is going to be fun because I don't think I feel the same way about this episode as what you do, Brendan. I really can't put my finger on it. Now, I do have a warning here. I'm not terribly familiar with the episode because I haven't seen it since it first aired. And after you and I talked last night, I did put it on and then got distracted, didn't watch it before I knew it was
Easily
over.
done.
And then last night I put it on and I fell asleep because it wasn't
Easily
because it
done.
was boring or anything. But I am actually watching it now. It is on my screen across the living room here with no sound, obviously.
That's
And
right.
you know,
I'd watch it.
I like this episode. So you're asking me to pick something that I didn't like about it. I wish it had been longer. Actually,
Well-
I know that this one had been a little bit of a.
Sorry.
What was it? It was either a Christmas episode or New Year's episode.
It was
And-
a BBC. I think it was a BBC Centenary one. So I think it was around November.
Right. So it would have been longer than an average episode already, I think.
Yeah.
But by me wishing that it had been longer, I wish that more of the scenes could have been extended more because there's some really beautiful effects and sets in this, and it seemed to be edited or cut down shorter than what it actually could have been. So that would be my most critical point that I can think of off the top of my head.
That's all right. I mean, we have it as an issue because, it has been a problematic few years. But me and John discussed this a long time ago. We said we also think fans can be too nostalgic. And when they do some of the old classics, they can just eulogize too much. And what we wanted is some objective criteria to pull in. But, I understand, and that's fair. Michelle, where do you stand bone of contention wise on this one?
Well, I went into this with, fresh eyes. I hadn't seen it since 2022. So I went in there, was like, okay, let's give it a fresh watch. Somehow, we're all rewatching it this morning. And I originally watched it on BBC America, which actually had commercial breaks. Somehow, watching it without commercial breaks, the episodes seem longer. I would like the 1 hour and 28 minutes of my life back. I am a busy woman. I'm trying to finish writing a book. I want that time back, Noel and Brendan. I want it back.
Well, I said what I said at the beginning. I didn't say I apologize, and I nearly did. Yes, I kept stopping. I did. I kept stopping. So, is there anything that really, out of all the things that got you aggravated, was the one item, one issue?
The story made no sense.
Story.
What did I watch?
Now, John knows because he used up a phrase 22 times recently in one of our shows that he can't use it today. He has to use it in a different way so that we don't get caught by the AI bots or something. So he'll be creative, I'm sure, when we get to him on story writing. But John, since I've mentioned you, you're only allowed one if you've got a few, but one bone of contention with this story.
Okay. Now, this might come as a shock to you. But as well as being the word that I'm not going to use today, Chris Chibnall is a plagiarist. And that's my big bone of contention about this, because it is full of plagiarism. He's taken some of the best hits that worked for Doctor Who throughout New Who's era, and has just lifted them, put them in here in the hope to make it stick, in the hope that a selection of set pieces or set moments will fall together and make an enjoyable story. But this is unfortunately one of those Doctor Who stories which is less than the sum of its parts. I'll get to you later, Brendan. I'll rhyme off how much he plagiarized in terms of these set pieces later on, so we can get through this section quickly. But on for a lengthy while.
Yeah, I've got it all printed up here. I mean, John, my intro could have been a whole program because, you know, if I unburdened version, even just headlines, for example, we should have made clear to everyone whether we're a hologram or not, because how many holograms were in that story? I just thought, oh my God, one Chris Eccleston hologram in The Parting of the Ways, which was a beautiful scene, and we'd never seen anything like that in Doctor Who before. Mm-hmm. We were getting holograms of Jodie Whittaker, Kate Stewart, Vinda, the Dalek in the TARDIS. I mean, the Fugitive Doctor was a hologram. I mean, wow.
Just as we're on that point, please, just let me rattle through some of these, if you like, greatest hits, then we went through. So we had, forgive me, we had Companion's Return. We had an art gallery mystery. We had the Genesis art redone as a Russian doll. We had the Doctor's friend gathered around the console, helping to help her out with a leader of a paramilitary organization being led for cyber conversion. We had the Daleks drilling at the Earth's core. Surprise, surprise. We had Ace being caught with the TARDIS while the TARDIS is in a horizontal position, like we had with River Song, not before. We had, as Lisa mentioned there, hologram doctors, and we had a doctor who we didn't expect to see, who wasn't in the, if you like, the canonical list of doctors popping into a special story. And that's just amongst some of the stuff that's spotted. And this really annoys me about this writer in particular, because the disrespect he shows not only for this program, but for its fans by thinking, we don't know that, is shocking, because I think even the casual viewer would recognize some of these tropes and ideas as being rehashes. So he's a plagiarist.
I think every time, John, to keep ahead of the AI, I think we need to come up with new terms. I think that's what it picks up. Hugh, welcome back. Lovely to see you. And now, was there any gripe with that?
No, I mean, I think John's right. It's less than some of its parts. It's almost difficult to pick out one thing. And normally, I'm a big fan of madness in terms of the Master, but I think it has to be controlled. And I think the Sacha Darwin stuff was just awful. There was no control, nothing.
Yeah. And funny enough, on our previous episode, we were talking about different masters, and actually a couple of people said, timescales you were on, weren't you, and Michelle, about ditching the Sacha Doctor master as an example. Noel, you've been through therapy and everything. Your channel has done it twice now, this story. So can you hold on to only one bone of contention?
Only one.
John makes some very good points there. Just add to that, because he's done all what John has described. The start, there was a lack of is the big issue here. It's disguised and camouflaged by all the fast-paced action. You watch the minutes, it's like the pace is just what Chris Chibnall did quite a lot actually to cover the fact that he is I can't use the word either. Can I use the word?
No, I think we're trying to avoid it because I think it'll think that's all we do on this channel, I think.
Don't be cynical.
Well, it's the truth though. I mean, in the word hack, then that's on them. That's the bottom line. He is a hack.
So for us, do we now have the H word?
Yes, the H word. That does, yes.
Yeah, well, exactly, because we need to be nimble. You're quite right. We'll be nimble as. So, yeah, I can see what you're saying, Noel. The thing you said there, Noel, one of my gripes was, they call it in media res, don't they? You start in the middle of the action. That's fine. That's one way you can engage an audience. But I just found myself going, I had no engagement with the passengers on the express. Yeah. I had no engagement with who the cargo was. The child didn't speak. The doctor lied to the little child, and me and John haven't been in teaching. I just thought, for God's sake, don't lie to a child. Mm-hmm. You're safe. You'll be all right.
But again, graph. this photograph here, the mummy on the Orient Express.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
Another lift.
yeah. I agree. I agree
these
totally.
major rise. So doctors like us are gonna see through that. Like, and if it's that obvious to us, then it's obviously gonna be very obvious to the casual viewer.
I'm trying to hold back as well on my burning issue, but basically, the media res only works if you engage with the people or the action is so interesting that you're sucked into that, but then it's followed by a calm exposition, but that didn't happen. Just 1 second, John, before I forget, because that's a trouble. I thought my burning issue, I'll say, is this is Doctor Who for the gaming generation. It has multiple levels, multiple settings. We jump around. I know one of the panel said we had no kind of quiet time or slow down. Multiple bare plots, no engagement. I had a headache after, well, I say 30 minutes. I think it was before then. Did you say Pandorica opens as well, John? Because
No, I didn't. But I was saying my list was not exhausted, Brendan. There's loads more.
Yeah, because I thought that element when you get all the Daleks and the Cybermen and they're all together, you know, isn't that genius? And it reminds me as a fan, sorry, John, I'll just finish the sentence. It reminds me of that photograph of as a kind of publicity photograph for the War Games, but you never saw that. This is classic. It's fantasy, but you should never see it. It looks great as a photograph, but you should never have that amount of monsters together because you are not doing each one of them credit. And let's give credit to Terence Dicks in the Five Doctors. He kept everybody separate. Mm-hmm. And this story throws them all in together and it becomes a fan fantasy. What was it you're going to say, John?
Well, that's just it, Brendan. It's fan fiction. That's what it is. And that's what the plagiarist, CC, is basically good at. He should be writing in fanzines. Unfortunately, he's taken that and put it on screen for us now. But I think that whole opening section is done for one reason only, is to write out a character who's basically just been written in. It's to get rid of the Dan character and to give him a reason for staying on Earth, basically because Chibnall can't think of anything to do with him during this story because you get so much else cluttering it up. And that's, again, a real disservice to John Bishop, both as an actor and as a personality, that he's treated so badly in this and that his character isn't valued. Now, if the writer can't value his own creation, how are we, the viewers and fans, expected to value them also?
Just to pick up one point in terms of the fan fiction, I nearly went with is my main gripe. My main gripe is actually the plot, but the side glance between the Dalek and the Cyberman, that's just shocking. What on earth is that other than something you put in a comic?
Yeah, it was a bit Harry Hill, wasn't it? That sort of idea.
Yeah.
That was actually ad-libbed. That was added in by the Dalek and the Cyberman master. But I think also it was the audience going, what am I watching? Huh?
Yeah.
At that point, the showrunner has to cut it out, ad-lib or not.
At the same time, they acted better than Jodie in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go on, Hugh. Go on.
Well, I again, so it's one of those things where I don't think the script gives Jodie Whittaker anything to do. This is it's a nightmare. When it says the power of the Doctor, it's exactly not the power of the Doctor. It's the power of the hologram.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I agree with what you're saying. There were so many companions and companion reunifications and all the rest of it going on. Reunion, sorry. But in the end, poor Dan got lost in all that mush. And yes, I mean, this is what I mean. It was fan fantasy. There were too many things being thrown at the dartboard and hoping something would stick. And I think there were one or two quiet moments for Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, since this is her regeneration story. And she had a chance at last to speak normally. And I thought she did it okay. We'll come to them later, no doubt. But the one other thing before I move on onto our criteria is this is her regeneration, and the amount of regeneration energy that was going round. We've just had the Cyber Masters regenerating. You know, she is forced into a regeneration, and then she has the real regeneration. I keep thinking of people who are just tuning in, who don't follow all Chris Chibnall's mythology. This is just beyond belief. How much regeneration energy is getting oozed out everywhere. And the Star Beast followed that up a bit. You know, when they blow the regeneration energy past in Star Beast. This is ridiculous. It's beyond belief. So I'm trying to hold on to one, but the whole thing just, yeah. And I felt sorry for Dan because he was the only realist who said, actually, I'd like to live. Right. Criterion one. This is for anybody on the simulcast who hasn't joined us before. This is our first main one. As I said at the beginning of the program, these might steer us in our judgment overall, and you can have one criterion where you're outstanding and another one where you're way down in special measures. There's 4 levels: outstanding, good overall, needs improvement, and special measures. A lot of us have been teachers and all the rest of it, so we thought we'd do criteria rather than waffling and meandering around. So this is our first one. Did the program in that story you saw, is it safeguarded? Did they follow canon, if that's your thing? Were the characters consistent, if that's your thing? Was that recognizable Doctor Who? So that's an easy one for you when you've watched 89 minutes. Anybody want to jump in on that one? Go on, timescales. Go on, because I'm aware this is a simulcast, so we should get you in.
Well, you don't have to do that. I'm pondering here. I'm actually still back on what John said, because those are some shocking true realities of this episode, which I hadn't really considered. But as far as safeguarding the program, no, I don't believe that the best was done that could have been to safeguard the program, because I don't think the showrunner should be writing the episodes. I think there needs to be a writer, and I don't think somebody needs to be filling in both areas. And this episode, it felt as if there was way too much stuff all trying to be smashed in, into this 87 or 89 minutes. I wikied the length of it just now while you guys were talking, and that made it confusing to me, in the same way that Michelle said, what did I just watch? Okay, yes, I have that same takeaway from it. What did I just watch? And the reason I was saying that I wish it had been longer is that I think, as much as they tried to smash into this 87 minutes, it could have been expanded on and told a much better story, preferably by a writer who is not also filling the position of the showrunner. And I think that this could have actually been 2 parts. I think there was enough in it to where it could have been expanded out and been twice as long, and then 2 parts. Please no. In the same way that I think Flux could have easily been 6 parts instead of 3. But I think it got cut down because of COVID and filming restrictions or something like that. But for safeguarding the program, no. The best job was not done that could have been with this creative team, because at some point somebody should have said, hey, Mr. Chibnall, you're running the show. Why don't we have a writer also? So safeguarding, they did not do the best that they could. And I still believe that there was enough content in this that a lot of it could have been expanded upon more if there had been more time to explain what was going on.
I mean, I'll just trigger words for the rest of the panel, because if we're talking about safeguarding of the program and consistency of character, well, we had Ace, we had Tegan, we had the Master, we had the Doctor's character, we had Yaz. There's an awful lot to look at. So there's an awful lot of rich pickings there. Michelle?
It did not safeguard the series. I mean, I think we're still feeling the after effects of this period with the lower ratings, and the work that the show has to struggle right now to bring viewers back. Also, the characters did not feel like characters from Doctor Who. Tegan and Ace, in particularly, are some of my biggest gripes with how they portray them, of these being these angry, bitter women who we're told, and we know we saw it on screen with Tegan, did not leave the Doctor on the best of terms, but then she's bitter that she hasn't seen him in 40 years. Same thing with Ace. Compare that to some of the reunions in the classic era where the doctors, the companions know that there's other companions, and it's like, oh, so which one's your doctor? You think that in the 5 Doctors of how all the companions met up again. So I don't. The characterization of these characters was extremely poor, and my biggest gripe is Tegan leaves the 5th Doctor because she is angry over the senseless deaths of Resurrection of the Dalek. Tegan just wiped out Unit by bringing in a nesting doll. There is no comment about that. There's no ramification of that. No understanding that, sometimes unwittingly, your actions can accidentally lead to the deaths of others. That is one of my biggest gripes with this episode.
I know this could be an all-nighter. This one. I mean, I won't keep going round and round the panel because I think there's no time lags here. So when people want to butt in, because there'll be some rounds you really want to go for it, and some way you'll want to react to somebody else. But I mean, for example, I'll just throw in that picture there. You've got is Ace falling off the unit tower, and conveniently, like some sort of Marvel movie, doing something that the Doctor's never been able to do before. He didn't even do it in The Runaway Bride. That basically Ace falls into the TARDIS that has angled itself conveniently at that second to save her fall. And who was flying the TARDIS? Well, it wasn't even the Doctor, it was Yaz. Now, the David Tennant Doctor struggled on that motorway to chase that taxi with Donna in. And now we've got Yaz just amazingly doing everything under the sun. This is just Marvel. This is just silly. This is just beyond belief. That is not a consistent use of the TARDIS.
But it's also, as I mentioned, the list.
Well, they've done it before, though.
Plagiarism. It was lifted from when the Matt Smith Doctor saved Riversong, when she came tumbling out of a spaceship, and the TARDIS saved her too. So yet again, it's a silly thing, but it had been done before and done better, to my mind.
Well,
Can I just say something? The safeguarding of the program is that all of this stuff being done by the writer Chris Chibnall is fairly desperate, because what he's after in doing this, and you can cover a review of the story in a few lines, but saying by putting in previous companions, previous Doctors, the use of Unit, the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Master, everything all there, he's inviting us to have sympathy with him, and to hate ourselves for not liking it. Because when you've got all these goodies, Doctor Who goodies in there, I know this as a fan, I desperately want to like this, because I love Tegan, I like Ace, I love all classic Doctors are there, and not only there, but there as they are there today, with a pretty good explanation as to why they're there as they are today. So he's been quite devious and cheeky with us, because to cover poor writing, he is wanting us to like a production of his purely because he's appealing to the fanboy and fangirliness, rather than producing just a really good episode of Doctor Who. And I hate to bring it back to something like Midnight or Turn Left again. We don't need all the bells and whistles of previous Doctor Who for us as Doctor Who fans to like it. We just need a good story, well written.
Yeah, what happened to waiting till the end of episode 1 Earthshock to go, oh gosh, one monster's back, without saying, oh, and so-and-so's back. And you see, Earthshock wouldn't be made now. You'd see the Cybermen after 2 seconds, and you'd be straight into it with no discussion. But I agree with what you're saying, John. I mean, it's just there's so much to say. The fanboy element is key here, isn't it? I think, yes.
It's basically, it's children, sweeties in order to make them enjoy their greens with their dinner.
I got that impression, and I think you said, and we were both heard Dan Hadley on Type 40 discussing how we've been manipulated as fans here, because, you know, when I advertised, advertised for this program tonight. Before watching it again, I said, "Is this probably the best of the specials? Is this the special we should have had in the 60th?" And now but I was only saying that because of the contents you've just said, John. The companions coming back, David Tennant, all the bits and the bobs like that. But I'm sorry, but it is an abuse of the fan, and it is an abuse of a fan because you're saying they're the bits. Don't look at the cracks over there, and by God, don't you dare moan about it, and don't you dare criticize. You are not worthy of criticism. You're not allowed.
I have to disagree with the chat there. I think is it Flumshk? I can't read the name, who's saying that he wasn't being Davies. I actually think he was, because I think he reckoned on the bad reaction to most of his era. You have to remember his era started with zero, with nothing, apart from the Doctor and the TARDIS from previous iterations of the show. And at its end, he's basically throwing everything at it. Now, why is he doing that? He's doing that to be liked and for us to like his stories. He needs legacy. He needs to think, oh my goodness, people like something that I produced. And that's why he's being devious. If he just sat down and properly applied, if he has got an unplagiaristic bone in his body, probably apply himself to write a good story, we would have all have liked it, I'm sure.
But I just in one thing, I get what John's saying. One of the things that really annoys me is that's okay if you're going to try and do this is some form of anniversary, the BBC's 100th anniversary, obviously. But what on earth is a non-fan meant to make of this?
Yeah, yeah.
It's nonsense.
That's what I mean.
The five Doctors had equally a whole lot of companions and creatures and monsters from the past, didn't it? But as Brendan said, all kept apart, and it had a very simplistic story, enough for anybody to follow. This is just a mess.
Yeah.
Well, in the five Doctors, all the Doctors held their own, even the replacement for the first Doctor. They all held their own. Jodie felt like she's being swallowed in this episode, and then when they have the scene, and granted, and also they weren't filmed together. Half these actors weren't even filmed together in their same scenes. You see how better actors the past Doctors were compared to even Jodie standing there interacting with them. You have more emotions with the reunions of the past Doctors and the companions than we have with the current lot.
Well, one thing, it's interesting, Michelle, what you're saying there, because to kind of give Jodie some credit, or to give her some excuse here, the way Chris Chibnall wrote her, and especially in this episode, the other Doctors are in stasis and they're able to just, absolutely relish their lines, aren't they? And, just really enjoy themselves. Whereas the Jodie Doctor in this story, as well as many others, is reacting all the time, having to rush. Why? What? I mean, is this canon? Is this safeguarding the story? Is this consistent characterization of the Doctor, that the Doctor still is gullible with the Master? I mean, for goodness sake!
Well, this long in,
Sorry, Michelle.
So that's okay. This long in, and she still doesn't really have a personality.
I know, and I was saying on our other stream the other day that the Sylvester McCoy wasn't my Doctor at all at the time, but when he comes back in the movie and actually here, he has such gravitas.
I was going to say that. He doesn't have gravitas, Brendan. He has mavitas.
True. I'm in the wrong universe. That's true.
There we go. Boom.
So Noel, you're uncharacteristically quiet on the consistency of character. Is this Doctor Who, Lark?
Well, everybody on the panel has made most of the points that I was going to make. It fails. It does fail on all the criteria. But I will say this: I actually did enjoy the classic Doctor's cameos, and I did like the interaction with the Doctors and some of their old companions. That for me was actually the best part of this whole story, if you even want to call it a story. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, overall, I mean, the criteria that you put forward, of course, it fails on every single one of them. And I agree with Michelle as well. I mean, this is Jodie Whittaker's regeneration story. Like, it's an important story for a doctor,
Yep.
especially one that's leaving. And she was overshadowed by everybody else. So
Yeah.
this is what happens when you put an idiot in charge of the show, someone that doesn't know what they're actually doing. And it is, I agree with John, it is absolutely devious what he done. You throw all of those, you're throwing everything at it now at this stage because you have utterly failed for the last few years. And John is right. This was for him trying to leave some sort of legacy. Oh, look what I done. I did the impossible. I brought all the doctors back and some of their companions. I
Mhm.
don't buy that as a fan. I mean, his cameo, I love the cameos. I'm not going to lie, but I saw it for exactly what it was. It was
Yep.
just Chris Chibnall
Absolutely.
throwing the kitchen sink at it. And when you have a writer doing that, you know, if he doesn't respect you, why should you respect the crap that he puts out? That's where I am with it. Actually, I'm getting angry again now over this. I
Well said, no,
absolutely, I absolutely hated this with a passion, right? But I will say
Yep.
this: this is the weird thing. It is his best special. It is the best thing that he's done in Doctor Who, but that's a damning indictment of him as a showrunner.
Yeah.
That is the best thing that he's done. You compare it to everything else, that is the best thing that he's done. But as John has said earlier on, you know, he has a list. That list would be three, four times the size. You could pick out scene after scene after scene. He plagiarized something. He has no respect
Yeah.
for the show at that stage. He'd no respect for the fans. And you know what? It was the worst thing. Whoever gave him that job, we've heard the stories. If they're true, they're idiots. They should never have given him the job. And we wouldn't even be in the position that we're in today if he wasn't showrunner. So, yeah, I'll shut up now because that's what's actually making me
Well,
out. When
Right.
everybody spoke about everything, it's just had to
just as
remind me
Michelle,
how bad this
well,
actually was.
well, just as Michelle comes in, I do remember you saying on a previous stream, Noel, when we were talking about this era, how upset you got. And I have to say, I empathise, but it was only watching it today that I actually did feel a little bit down that path as you were. I was thinking, this is not my program in no shape or form. This is an abuse. This is vandalism. This is a disgrace. This is cultural kind of wrecking of something. I honestly just thought it was so sloppy, so cavalier, so ill thought through. And as John said a lot earlier, when we were talking about the Sweetie shop and just throwing dolls at us of figures that we've seen before, it is so exploitative of fans. It is so devious. Michelle, what were you going to say?
We're gonna wait. Let's wade into rumor territory for a moment. That possibly behind the scenes of making this episode, and the rumors are correct. The main actors were told that this was going to be the 60th anniversary special because this was going to be the last episode of Doctor Who. Even Janet Fielding has admitted that she thought it was the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, not the Centenary episode. So here again, we have all of these actors coming back for one last time to play their character on TV and to preserve their legacy. And one of the reasons this is not for safeguarding the show was Chris Chibnall was the one that ruined the legacy and it was not in the room to possibly even hand it over. Because the episode was the doctor was supposed to fade to black in regeneration, and we
Yeah.
weren't supposed to see who he or she was regenerating into.
Well, Michelle is right because we already know that Chris Chibnall said in an interview that he was surprised when they announced RTD. He wasn't even told. He wasn't even told about the fact that RTD was coming back. So that centenary wasn't supposed to be the centenary. Michelle's right. The rumor is it was supposed to be the 60th anniversary.
And one more story. Anika Willis was asked to come back. She declined. She told them, "I would rather prune my rose garden." And she later said, "I think I made the right decision."
Mind you, she's interesting because she also slags off William Hartnell. But anyway, sorry, over to you, John.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, based on what we're talking about, this program being less than the sum of its parts. This is the thing. Chris Chibnall was being Davies. He's dishing old doctors, companions, characters, unit, the Daleks, the Cybermen, all this being put at us. But the acid test of this is that we can all watch those little bits with the old doctors in isolation. We can watch little scenes of Tegan and Ace together in isolation. We can watch the scenes with the Master of the Dark, whatever we choose to watch. The companion scene at the end, which is very sweet and very lovely. And it's great to see William Russell and all the others back there too. But the point was, we can see all that. Nowhere together does all this hang together to make it a story. And that is the huge, big raspberry we can blow in the face of this Chris Chibnall creation. And that's why we see it for what it is. It is just, it's a bit like, as I said, a parent putting down a plate full of pretty manky, as we say in Glasgow, vegetables that children don't want to eat, but littering it with candies and sweeties and Smarties in order to get them to eat it and make it look better, to make a pretty unseemly mess look a bit more palatable to the child. This was, and will always will be, the story where Chris Chibnall just basically thought, I think Scottish Davros said the word, just farted it out, you know. So we can say with great effect, he is the H word.
And can I just say, because I mean, God, we will have to discipline ourselves to move on, I guess, won't we? Because there's so much here. But the Cyber Masters regenerating.
Yeah.
If we're talking about consistency of character and is this Doctor Who, you've absolutely killed Doctor Who here, because they can now regenerate. So that, as they said at some point in this episode, there's loads of Cybermen everywhere because you can't kill them. So you've got a real problem in the Doctor Who universe now of Cybermen that can't be killed at all. You've really got
a huge problem.
You've then got the other issue that, remember, add the bi-generation onto this nonsense, and you've got the Doctor never dies. So you've got a series where the Cybermen never die, the Doctor never dies, and the genius in this episode was, if you touch the shoulder of a companion with some implant, you can actually guide them like some hologram so they can never die, because you'll be advising them from afar. In other words, the companions will never die again, because surely the Doctor will use that implant forevermore. The Cybermen will never die and the Doctor will never die. What's the point of watching this program? Go on, John.
And also that little chip as well, Brendan, makes sure that a companion can fall 100 feet in a shaft and can come out without a scratch, because apparently Tegan can do that.
It's a shame she didn't. It's a shame she didn't tap Pua Kate, who had to make that terrible decision to face, the Cybermen or not. Honestly, so
as soon as he did this with the Cybermen, that realistically, along with the Timeless Child and the Fugitive Doctor, should have killed Doctor Who. How it managed to survive is beyond me. I mean, this is an absolute disrespect here, what he did to the Cybermen. Now, I do like the redesign of them. I'll give him, we'll probably get into that, right? We'll get into that later. But there was so much potential here with the Cybermen themselves. He couldn't figure out what to do with them. So this was his solution. He thought, oh, well, let's make them, first of all, let's use dead Time Lords, right? We always thought that the Cybermen needed live flesh or whatever it was, but he changed that completely. You could use dead bodies now, and then of course the cyber, oh man.
Isn't Moffat guilty of the dead bodies one though?
Right.
He does that one first.
I think he was right about that.
Oh, you did. You're right, Hugh. You're right. Absolutely.
So
good catch there, Hugh. I was thinking that.
Well done. Yeah, I'll correct it. Yeah. absolutely. But
It's
so much
also then,
potential
we can also say
here.
that's also an example of Chris Chibnall plagiarizing again.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
So
I think plagiarizing is a bit of a harsh word, and I think that it may mean something different in the U.S. and the U.K. But I get what you're saying, and that's something that I had not considered before.
Yeah,
Very good points,
Great, that's
John.
fair enough. I'll simplify that. He nicks other people's ideas. There we go.
Yeah, his
Okay.
whole season,
Yeah.
he's done it. The whole era, he's done it. He's done it from series 11. Yeah, he nitpicks the best bits of different eras, thinking
More
if he
talented
sticks
people.
them all in, it'll be as popular as ever. But the thing he forgot to do, the thing he forgot to do was add something new to it and actually write a goddamn story and a plot. Like there's no, oh, don't get me. Oh no.
the thing is, Noel, you've got Moffat passing it to RTD passing it to Chibnall. This group in here, it really is. They're feeding off each other. They're not feeding off classic Who. They're feeding off each other on new Who, and it's become a little parasite in itself. Right. We're moving on from this criteria. I think people watching us can maybe guess whether we're going outstanding all the way down to special measures on criteria 1. But just before we do criteria 2, we have a quick burst of the dialogue, some of the dialogue, which is always interesting with Chris Chibnall.
You mean the lack of?
Yes, it's interesting when we look at dialogue of the Doctor in this. I just want to throw you a few examples and see if anybody wants to bite on these. I know we're not impressed overall. Well, we've got this one. We've kind of referenced it. We are more than Cybermen. We are your cyber masters. Now, Sadako24 has said earlier, making them near invincible might be interesting. The trouble is everybody's becoming invincible, Sadako. I mean, there's nothing left. I keep saying about Jeopardy. This bit I referenced, and I just want to remind ourselves of this. Get away from that pod. This train's under my control, and reinforcements are on their way. Doctor, you shall not disrupt us. And then, so whatever you came for, whatever that cargo is, you failed, says this strong bravado Doctor. It's all right. When she sees the child, I'm the Doctor, I'm going to protect you. And the Cyberman correctly says the Doctor's lying, because what and we've seen this in the Legend of the Sea Devils. I've seen this in so many episodes under Chris Chibnall. The Doctor has absolute false, chest open, like inflated frog chest, saying, I have got a plan. How dare you deal with me? And there's no plan.
There never is. She gets all the companions to do all the hard work, and then she just blunders in the last minute, and people end up dying. It's bad writing by the head writer, because he's not understanding the Doctor, and that's what it is. Chris Chibnall's supposed to be a fan. He's supposed to understand the Doctor inside out, but clearly he doesn't, because his writing reflects that. She's one of the. I mean, the universe is destroyed because of this Doctor. I mean, he wrote her so idiotic. It's unbelievable. I don't get why he was so unfair to Jodie Whittaker. Listen, I didn't agree with the casting of a woman as the Doctor, right? I'll say it out straight, and people can call me whatever they want for holding that opinion. I believe it was a male role, and it was doing well. It didn't need to be changed, and this wasn't changed because they were trying something new. It was a gimmick from the start, and it was a gimmick at the end. The bottom line is he doesn't understand the show. It's clear as day when you watch his era.
But Noel, in a way, it sounds as though he doesn't understand women, because he's got a female character who talks to who, in a way, talks to a child and says, "Don't worry." That sounds nice and maternal and caring. The trouble is, while she's saying that, she knows she hasn't got a plan, and that kid is materialized somewhere else, and then is tethered up. The whole point is, you don't lie to a child. Every parent knows that. And look what's happened. You've just said to the child, "You'll be all right, you'll be safe," and then they've been put in a major dangerous situation. I've seen one or two, you know, it's beyond belief. And if they're the blooming target audience, that's no hero of mine.
Some of the women were poorly portrayed, though. I mean, you had Yaz. I mean, she was supposed to be a cop, but like you look at her characterization, I mean, it was poorly written. Jodie Whittaker's Doctor poorly written. You know, Tectoyun kidnaps a child, you know, and then brings her back to Gallifrey and then does scientific experiments on her. So he doesn't understand women. This is his biggest crime.
Yeah.
For a guy that was you know, screaming from the rooftops that he had a female doctor. He didn't do her any justice. And that's what I was going to say. I personally don't believe the doctor should have changed gender. But if she had been written better, we don't know what her potential could have been. Because that's what was robbed from Jodie Whittaker as well, her potential, because she didn't have the writers and the structure behind her to give her best performance.
This is why, Noel, I'm looking at certain examples of the script. So here's an example where I thought she was allowed to quieten down, and she almost sounded a lot, well, she sounded a lot better than she did with Graham when he said he had cancer. And I think Chris Chibnall was aware of that. So here, when Dan is leaving, which John mentioned way earlier in the program, you know, I was one hand away from suffocating, and you know, I've learned. And she says life's important, home's important. And I actually thought Jodie, I mean, there's only 4 words there to use, but she was allowed to slow down. The trouble is, and I'm just going to quickly show this one. This is when it all goes crazy. I think it was Hugh was saying, what about the people who just watch the program who aren't Doctor Who fans? Look at this technical gobbledygook. I was trying to keep up with it. The Cybermen have tethered that child into this planet. Oh no, it's cloaking. It's a consciousness shield. It was registering as an energy source. It's hiding the visual projection. Blah 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 blah. Oh, it's a Quinix or whatever. Oh my God! I mean, that's all. By the way, those are all one sentence after another.
Yeah.
I can imagine my mum going, "What is this?" And she'll get on with, you know, something else. It's like, what a load of crud. So. You know, on the dialogue doctors, we do try and be fair while looking at the script.
But that's the thing again. He puts this type of dialogue up, thinking that it'll appeal to fans like us, John, and the older fans. But we could see right through this rubbish. It is rubbish writing. That's the bottom line here.
Are you laying it on like with a trowel? So the first doctor is meant to say, gosh, you're one of those doctors with a lot of strong character. Well, tell me a doctor who didn't. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like, are we saying this for any particular reason? Is there a reason at all behind that?
She's the bestest ever because she's a woman.
Just to take it back, Brendan, to the scene where they do that with the child. That's where Jodie says that you see whatever would make you most sympathetic. Now, why does Yaz and the doctor see the same thing? And if you're doing a bit of writing here, rather than just a bit of a mess, surely it would make more sense to put a companion in the story for the doctor to talk to, because that would be the person that she'd be most likely to save. And you could use any of the older companions to do it, rather than some poor child who has no idea what it's doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, there you go.
We have child abuse in this era too.
Yeah, it's a lazy piece of writing again. I'm going to say that's enough. I'm just going to say, sorry, John. I'm just going to say that's enough for me. That's probably the most excitement I've had for 2 weeks, and I'll bow out now and enjoy the rest of it.
Well, thank you for coming on here. You know you're loved here, and we'll see you again.
Take care.
Yeah, look after yourself. Oh, well, it was good to get you back. I suppose it's a neat point. What he was saying about the dialogue. You even give away your secrets, don't you? Because in the dialogue it said, I won't explain to the companions. Oh, she never explains. I'm thinking that's because Chris Chibnall hasn't got an explanation. You know, don't give it away, folks. Right.
Gonna need therapy after this, man.
So criteria 2. So I'm not doing the list, but basically we call it, you know, the use of resources, because obviously, It's a top program. You can judge it on visual effects if that helps. Director, great shots or whatever, good acting, music, set design, costume. It goes on, and obviously our panelists will pick what bothers them or what pleases them. So under criteria 2, John, where are you pitching this story?
Well, I'm going to go to one of my favourites, which is the direction. And I think that Jamie Magnus-Stone has taken a very turgid script and managed to produce some really good set pieces. And that's what they are, the set pieces.
Yeah.
In particular, the cyber invasion of unit headquarters, I thought was very well handled. And Ashad stomping through unit, basically slaying everybody in front of him, is really well done, and to the extent that you get a real sense of fear and foreboding about what this character is able to do. He's just a force working his way through, and then you take it on further and you get the idea of cyber conversion and the whole, although it's a direct lift from something that happened in Army of Ghosts and Doomsday, the whole conversion process being done by the Cybermen in the building, when it's happening to Kate, it doesn't lend anything to it the way it's directed does. And I think Jamie Magnus-Stone is one of the real finds from this era. And I'm glad to see that he's being used again, because he manages to make, as I say, what could be quite boring Doctor Who come alive. So the visuals are good. It looks good. He makes the best of the budget throughout this. Yeah. And I think also he manages to get some, despite some pretty, and George, my husband, talked about the dialogue being so pretty poor, but he manages to get some really good performances despite the dialogue out of people like Gemma Redgrave, Janet Fielding, and Sophie Aldred. Now, Janet and Sophie will have turned up and basically have done as they're told because they're happy to be back. And it wouldn't be like back in their day when they could have maybe picked up a script and had a debate about it. So that was good. There was a director there who was going to try and get the best out of them amidst all this jiggity-pokey that was going on around them. So in that respect, I'm going to give this a thumbs up in terms of direction, because I think, although it's still a mess, he saves it from being even worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I agree with you. If I'm going to judge them all on separate criteria, it did look good. The effects overall were much better than Doctor Who ever has. It's just unfortunately when you get a kind of Independence Day style unit headquarters collapsing, and I just got the last shot then when you get apparently Tegan and Kate survive that.
That was stupid. That was stupid.
Yeah. Unfortunately, so you get a lovely Independence Day Hollywood style collapse of unit headquarters, well delivered, but then it by seeing that magnitude, well done.
Step 2 paces to the right and you can avoid it.
Yeah, and then the Doctor almost just says, "Come in the TARDIS and let's get on with it." So the visuals were off the scale, but me and John have discussed this before, and the truth is the visuals can be out, they are, but we've got to be fair. The visuals were stunning. The trouble is it just didn't knit together, and that was the problem. I mean, Daleks coming out of that volcanic crater and then blowing them all up. Doctor Who, with a big budget, you can do it. It's just that you need to actually stitch it together. It needs engagement. I mean, I can feel sorry for a Dalek. We all felt sorry, I think, for that Dalek, that first story with Chris Eccleston, because of the way it was written. It was interesting to see one Dalek on its own. You almost thought Chris Eccleston was torturing it too much. You almost, I don't know. It was just interesting. Whereas this is just, it's just.
Or never heard of a good Dalek. Well, what about Rusty, who actually pulled his arm off to show the Doctor that it had been no harm to him?
Yeah.
I felt a bit of sympathy for that. I think that Nicholas Briggs managed to do to that voice. I thought that was making the Dalek quite sympathetic, and again, it was the words put into this creature's mouth what lets it down. Ultimately, unless the stories that we can have as many good effects, and we've said this about the recent Russell Davies specials, we can have as many Disney type effects as we get. But unless the story and character and dialogue is there, go home, everybody, and go and make something else.
And so you see, being fair, what we're saying is criteria to get actors. I mean, there must have been so much green screen going on, so much short, snappy scenes that actually
you can't tell where the green screen comes in and out. You can kind of tell some of it. It doesn't really blend well.
No, I know. Maybe it's my eyesight. I never noticed some of it, but basically, like when Wild Blue Yonder. But the point is to get the actors to be there and present is not bad as a director. The visual effects, I cannot knock. Come on, let's judge it. It cannot knock it.
No,
Trouble is,
excellent.
and I judge this outstanding, as I said, for the use of resources. It's just that it doesn't save it. Timescales. You came into this much more positive than me on the use of production resources and everything. How are you judging it?
Well, I'm remaining very positive, and like I said, I'm watching it now. I'm pausing it every once in a while because I expect this panel to be 2 hours, and this is 87 minutes, and I want to be watching it while we're discussing this. And the point that I'm at right now on visuals, where I've got it paused, is where Ace and Tegan are running up the spiral staircase during one of the Cybermen blast them up. Flashy parts of it right here. So on two of these criteria, I want to touch on the music and then of course touch on the visuals briefly. As far as the music, I have been critical of BBC's decision to change the style of the music in the Jodie Whittaker era. And again, I do not blame the composer, Sagan Akinola. I think he's absolutely excellent, and I love his other works outside of Doctor Who. But what really surprises me in this special is that the music is so much different than what we got in the average television episode. Yeah. You know, the average quiet television episodes where there's some sort of undulating, dreary sound and bass, and then somebody hits the piano key every once in a while. Now, with this one here, it feels cinematic, and I had to go double check. I had to wiki this morning and make sure, is this really Sagan Akinola that is doing this music? And I don't know whether he was given more creative freedom with this particular episode, but the music is so much different than what I remember of the average television episode that I think it is epic. Epic is a good word. And it goes along great with all of the visuals. The visuals are absolutely ridiculously outstanding. It's stunning. Some of the scenes in this, and that's why my initial criticism of it is that it wasn't longer. And I'm finding out now, learning from you guys, a little bit more about why I may have thought that it should have been longer. I think that I didn't understand what was going on, not only because of too much stuff all being crammed into 87 minutes, but it seems like it might not have been particularly well written. So
let's put it mildly, my friend.
Right. So there's also another reason that this episode was very special to myself and my family, and that's because we got to meet Sophie Aldred right after the episode aired. She had a very talented event organizer who went and set up a thing where we could all meet Sophie Aldred on Zoom right after the episode. So we got to talk to her, and I got to first hear the story of how excited she was to get the phone call about the fact that she needed to go find her leather jacket in the closet there and put it on. So that's an external factor, which probably differs from that of the average viewer of this episode. But like I was saying, I think external factors have a big play into how much people enjoy a particular episode. Yeah. Such as with the Star Beast, where I was able to watch it with a large group of friends and family members that were all laughing and having a great time. Many of them had never seen Doctor Who before. That was very special to me. So that's why the Star Beast felt very special, was because of the setting that it was in. And with this particular episode, we've got great music, we've got stunning visuals, and then actual interaction with someone on the program itself. Being able to talk to Sophie right after it ended was just absolutely thrilling. So, as far as these criteria, I think it knocked the ball out of the park on several levels. But I just wish that whoever is producing Doctor Who today, BBC and or Bad Wolf, and I guess now Disney has some strong push apparently. I wish that there were a different structure to where there was a showrunner, and
Yeah.
then as part of the team, there were a group of writers. And I wish it would always address new talent. I wish it would go back to old talent, proven writers, and I'm not even going to go into the list of the people that I think should be writing for television Doctor Who today, but I think that the writing seems to have failed on multiple levels, and it's a shame because had all of this been tied in together, if it could have been longer, if it could have expanded upon more of what was happening, to a point that we could actually understand it. Let's say had it been two parts, I think it would have worked a lot better. But what if we had the great music, the fantastic visuals, two parts, and different writers who are separate from the showrunner? I think it could have been so much better.
And this is just for a second. This is what we were saying in our previous stream, wasn't it? When we were saying about the American impact on Doctor Who, and the showrunner was one of the showrunner role was one of those things we raised there. Please have a look at that if you didn't, because I had a panel of 4 Brits, 4 Americans, and we really went over that, and there were some amazing, insightful comments there. Obviously, we've all chewed the cud of the trailer. We looked at the reaction. I've got a few theories going on. I mean, I can see people on YouTube saying they think Mrs. Flood's the TARDIS and all the rest of it. Well, we had a whole range of stuff. I've gone heavy on the meddling monk and the possible return of Jodie Whittaker, actually, on that one. So please do take a look. Do you know what? While we're just on director James Magnus Stone and we're on the acting within this, and we are trying to always look fair on here, I'm going to go around the panel, starting with you, Noel. I'm going to ask, from that 80 odd minutes, yeah, we know what was wrong with it, and we etc. etc. What was your favourite moment?
The cameos.
And which one out of those, Noel? Tell me
No,
which
I
one.
liked all the cameos. I just loved them all. Every single one of them. I knew what he was doing with them, but to see them all on screen again, I loved it. I'm not going to lie. I said it at the time. You know, the writing is obviously very poor, but there were moments in this, and I did like the interactions with the classic doctors with their companions. I thought that was very well done, and I actually didn't mind the scene with Jodie Whittaker and the doctors zooming up, but they did upstage her, which was very sad because it's her regeneration story.
Yeah.
Um, but my favorite moments definitely the cameos, and I agree with timescales. The music in this was so different, and
Hmm.
it is such a shame because I think you know it might have been Chris Chibnall's brief to have the music kind of incidental, and I don't think that it will ever that works with Doctor Who. And I think he might have had more creative control. So, yeah, I didn't mind his music in this as much as I hated it throughout the whole era. Um, but I'm glad he got the shine in the end as well. So that was another positive. Um, yeah, the cameos really. That's the thing that I was ranting and raving about. Um, when it came to reviewing this episode. So I can't think of any more really. I suppose Jodie regenerating into David Tennant was a bit, well, kind of knew it was coming, but it was nice to see the reaction of fans when that happened. But yeah, that was my Doctor Ground up there, Peter Davison. Um, and it was nice to see him back, I have to say. Um, cameos for me, that's the one thing that I'll give Chibs. But even though I know he did it cynically, um, but I do believe he respected them enough to not make, you know what I mean? He didn't go overboard. And he just did enough for me with them. He didn't destroy them. So as far as I was concerned, once he didn't bring them onto the screen and they were lectured by Jodie Whittaker's doctor, then, you know, I was happy. And the fact that that didn't happen, I'm happy. So listen, the cameos for me, and I will say I'll give him his flowers for that, even though I know it was cynical. I love it.
Okay, so as I go to John, I'm trying to answer my own question. I won't answer it yet, but I'll come to you. But you know, there's the companion bit at the end. Which is your favorite moment? I mean, I'm just thinking. I'm toying with the companion bit at the end, that chat. I notice a lot of fans. It's not the Peter Davison with Tegan one. I notice it seems to be the Ace with Sylvester one they tend to pick. And then there's the cameos on as the Guardians of the Edge, and there's various other bits. Where are you going on your favorite bit from this story?
Yeah, and I'm desperately trying not to pick one of the things that he wants me to pick. Chibnall, I mean, because to go for the sweeties rather than go for what should be the meat and veg in terms of this. So yeah, I do love that piece at the end. I love seeing Ian Chester and William Russell again. That's so sweet, and we will never see him again. I think there should be space for Susan there. There wasn't. However, let's see what occurs as we go forward with this. So if I have to pick something else in this, and it's difficult. Probably in terms of it would be a moment of tension, and I do like the as I said, that whole business with the Cybermen stomping through the building. I really think that the director and that managed to really rack up the tension, and that complemented with the music. It is for the first time in about 5-6 years or more that we get the sense that Doctor Who's exciting again back. And that hadn't happened throughout the Chibnall era, maybe because of Seika Nakanola's music and the terrible writing and the fact that the writing didn't sort of go through sort of crescendos and lulls. But here, for once, the music really complements what's going on, and we get a real sense of jeopardy. Also, one thing, just that picture reminds me, Brendan, the relationship between Ace and Graham is fantastic. So, two actors knowing what they're doing, because we know Ace's character, and because Graham was, out of all the Chibnall characters, was the best written, I think. But two actors in control of what they're doing, working together, showing how it could have been, how this era could have had us really excited with an older companion, a young companion perhaps, complementing each other perfectly, sparking off each other with lines, and well directed too. That just shows you what an absolute SH1T show the Ryan and Yas thing had been, along with Graham, up to that point. We had been spoiled. Had we had Graham and Ace, what could have not been to like?
Look, before I go to Michelle, John, I want to ask you another supplementary on this, because you mentioned the Cybermen marching and all the rest of it and how well that was done. If we were comparing this to the Five Doctors, as in, we all know, I love the Raston Rory robot with the Cybermen. That's a key moment, a battle scene in that. And there's various others I could mention, but I won't go into that now. But Five Doctors has a lot of little moments which are either well-directed, well-written, both done together. You mentioned that moment, but I must admit, is what you're saying regarding action. I understand what you're saying about companions coming back and seeing William Russell and that, but regarding the action, and there was plenty of action, apart from the one that you've mentioned, is there anything else? Is it up there with the Raston Rory robot or anything from Five Doctors? Anything?
Well, I think it's not just what's the Cybermen storming, is Ashad, that Simon. Yeah. That actor, that's because they've got not just an extra, they've got an actor, not a dancer or whatever, a real solid actor who can portray that character just merely by walking or stomping or marching, call it what you will. You get a real sense of power of that character, and you feel a real direct sadness that he doesn't get more to do, because they made the effort after killing this great character off needlessly and senselessly in the Timeless Child episodes. They bring him back here, and then really go for it big time, giving him a sense of power. And you get real dread and fear surrounding us as he stomps across the unit, slaying and slashing everything in his path.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he just dies. Again, Chris Chibnall, it's the writing that lets these well-directed, well-acted moments down.
Okay, Michelle, over to you.
My favorite moment, as I'm a huge Fifth Doctor fan, so I love the Fifth Doctor back with Ace. I mean, Tegan. Love back with Tegan. That was a nice resolution to the way that they left things in Resurrection of the Daleks. So that was very sweet to see. I also loved the 7th and the 8th Doctor arguing over wearing robes. There always has to be one that's different. That was here's two actors who know their characters inside out, and also they're friends in real life. But having that moment of there's always got to be one that's different. It's just in that personality of the Doctors. And I also give a throw out. I love the Graham and Yaz moment. I mean, Graham and Ace moment. I can't talk here. Graham and Ace about you don't ask a lady her age, especially on the first date.
Can I ask a question from what Michelle just said there? Do we know why McGann didn't wear a robe? Was it strictly for that line, or did he not want to wear
Yeah, pretty much, because that's just his Doctor being different. That was that was written in there as a joke that why aren't you wearing robes? And he goes, I don't like robes.
Specifically for that purpose. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, Michelle,
they all the past Doctors did not film all together. There was I think the 3 and different times, but it was just meant to be a funny joke about difference of characters.
And it worked.
Michelle, can I just follow up on one thing then? You've mentioned a few times about Tegan coming back, and I understand that. I love the 80s crew, and it was nice to see them back. Now, knowing how Tegan left it in Resurrection of the Daleks, which you've referenced, I found it interesting that they made Tegan was famous for arguing with the Fifth Doctor in the TARDIS, that strange argumentative relationship. And when she's brought back, is this a bit lazy writing again, that because she was an argumentative woman, she's had 2 failed marriages, she hasn't seen her son,
it's the argument of a failed middle-aged woman who probably has cats at home.
Yeah,
is Chris Chibnall's not understanding of a woman, and that it's the portrayal. Because see, she was argumentative, and someone says, someone in the chat said she was always angry. I never really saw her as angry. She was assertive. Doesn't mean that she was right in her assertiveness. It's only in recent years and through Big Finish that Tegan has become this angry character, has become this character that's smarter than what she was ever written to be. It's funny because in the 50th anniversary specials, behind the scenes, they have Janet Fielding saying Tegan is assertive. Doesn't mean she's smart, but she's assertive. And then now 10 years later, Tegan's intelligent. She's smarter than the Doctor, and that's what we see in Big Finish. And that's the objection I've had to some of the Big Finish retconning of Tegan's character now. So there's been some changes to the Tegan character that I disagree with, because you can be assertive. It was one time Janet Fielding even said you can be assertive without being smart.
Yeah, I think it's just too lazy to say that a strong woman in the 80s.
You can't show a woman being not smart anymore either.
Yeah, let's face it. This is the 1980s. It was that she was a strong woman then, up against this alien male presenting, if we go down that road, Time Lord. And what did she do? She's brought back, and she can't manage a marriage, apparently. She's got exactly. She's got a dysfunctional family regarding her son.
She's adopted the child, so she hasn't had a child naturally, so she's adopted a child.
So basically what you've got is a woman who is strong and assertive is suddenly punished in life, according to the story writer. That's a great message. Absolutely great message. So I just thought that is that too predictable? Actually, too cruel to say. Well, Tegan's got a gob. Well, she couldn't manage a marriage. Well, thank you for that, Chris Chibnall.
I think that were made to feel sorry for Tegan, feel sympathy for her, feel that she's incomplete and not had a proper life as a result of this. She's been pining for a man, the Doctor, throughout her life. She's lots of regrets. That seems to be the message that the male writer, Chris Chibnall, who's unable to write for women properly, seems to be sending us about Tegan, that she is
that a
unfulfilled.
woman has to have his whole life revolving around a man. And she had no romantic feelings for whatsoever when she was in the TARDIS.
No.
Yeah.
So timescales, over to you on
Okay.
your favorite bit.
Well, while we're on a roll here with Tegan, let me add to that a little bit. Just a sec here. Okay. With Tegan, I never perceived that character as being angry, but now that Michelle mentions it with the portrayal of Tegan in Big Finish, that's real interesting, and that is an interesting point, Michelle, that I had not considered, and I believe that you're right. And I think that is a little bit of a harsh treatment with this character. Now, with Tegan, back during the Peter Davison era, I really had difficulty understanding British accents. And with Tegan, I never perceived her as being angry or overly abrasive. Here in the US, we have regional accents, and one of those is from New Jersey. And, with all due respect to people in New Jersey, I'm not trying to be a jerk here by saying this, but honestly, some people perceive New Jersey accents to be as if they're speaking angrily when they're actually not. It's just something about a regional accent, okay? And it's not just American accents. Some people will hear people speaking in other languages in public and perceive them to be speaking angrily when they're not. That's just how they talk. So with Tegan, I always thought in the back of my mind that maybe she has a regional British accent to where it may cause her to come. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Okay, so yeah. So I was a little bit on to something there without realizing it. So I always thought that the harshness or abrasiveness could just come down to something simple such as the accent. And then of course with her portrayal here in Power of the Doctor, it looks like we're falling back on that same thing repeatedly.
It's
The need for improvement.
It's the Karen.
Right. The need. Yeah, Karen. But it seems like we're falling back on that constant thing that there could have been. There is a need for improvement in the writing areas. But that's just that's my take on Tegan there. And Brendan, any other part of this question you'd like me to elaborate on?
I was trying to be really fair. Your favorite moment, your favorite scene. In other words, did he get something right?
There were multiples, and my favorite scenes were seeing original cast members coming back. I was just genuinely really happy for these performers, and seeing Sophie Aldred on the screen as Ace, I was elated because Sophie Aldred is a very kind and generous professional, and she already had that panel set up where fans were going to be able to talk to her on a group Zoom through an excellent event organizer. So when I saw her appear on the screen, I already knew that we're going to get to talk to her after this episode. And I'm sorry, but how cool is that? So yes, seeing these performers, these performing artists on screen again in their roles, I was just really happy for them, even if I couldn't quite understand what was going on with the story.
I think, and I've been thinking while I've been listening to you all, I did love the moment at the end with the companions. I have to say, it was lovely to see. I mean, at that point, I wasn't sure if Bonnie was coming back, but Bonnie there, Katie Manning, you just saw them all sat there. It was lovely. And William Russell got a line. It was just lovely. I mean, Katie Manning, you could hear her laugh all the time.
Yes.
It was just, and it was lovely. But I think in the end, and I've got to be fair, because I have been, as a older teenage, early 20s person with Sylvester McCoy's Doctor, the moment with Ace, but it wasn't actually the dialogue. It was just I just think Sylvester McCoy has really grown into the role, and his voice and everything about him just has so much magnetism now that I
Magic
actually,
shots.
yeah, I just, I just love him back. You see, I thought that in the McGann movie, I just thought, oh, I know it was a problem to do with regeneration when you're introducing a new Doctor. That was a bit of a mess, I know. But it was great to see Sylvester get another chance for 7 minutes or so. And I thought, God, if that was the Sylvester we could have had in '89, I'd have really stuck with it. And I know you can get older or you can learn. And so hopefully Jodie can be like that if she comes back later on. So I think I'm going to nail the Sylvester, just Sylvester being in it. I think he had real, and he did have that humor that we mentioned with Paul McGann as the Guardians of the Edge, and, pulled her face and everything. And it had that Troughton Pertwee-esque element to it. It was lovely. So the last criteria, which is actually, I think we know the answer, which is engagement of the audience. Were you thrilled, excited? It got you going? Yeah. So that's it. Just to remind everybody, there may be some nuggets you haven't mentioned yet. I seem to have
Chicken nuggets.
I seem to have as Noel knows. Noel likes a list, and John had a list. I've got a list here. I'm not going to say it yet, but Noel, did it? You're a poor lad. We've been saying in the thread, me and Garbage, about you maybe you should have had counselling sessions. How many times you've watched this? But Power of the Doctor, Noel, did it engage you in any way?
I mean, I did like the action sequences. As John has put it, there were set pieces. There was a lot of that. I did enjoy some of the interactions with some of the main characters, but was it engaging overall? Well, I think someone on the panel, I think it was Timescales, didn't he say he fell asleep as well? I've fallen asleep watching this trying to watch this a couple of times since I did the Force review.
Well, I just fell asleep because I was tired. It didn't have to do with the program.
Right. I'm just saying, but a lot of people at the time had the same issue as well. And if you're kind of, dozing off on the sofa while you're watching it, well, then it's not engaging, is it? So, I would have to say it failed on this criteria, which is kind of sad because, as you said, like there are some good moms with the classic companions and stuff like that. Timescales, said 2 episodes, and no, but he makes a very good point. But I go further and say this could have been a whole season arc. You could have done a whole season of this. Parts 1, Power of the Doctor, part 1, 2, 3, 4. Done an hour episode. Each episode, right? That's 4 hours of Doctor Who. You could have stretched this over because you would have got a lot more in it. Obviously, if Chibnall was a competent writer and he knew what he was doing, you could have fleshed this out over a longer period. I believe you could have done a whole series with this. And that's the thing. But that's, again, there was no real plan. It was just all thrown together, as someone said, hoping that it sticks. And I had sweet moments like this, but I'm not going to be bought by the sweet moments. Like that's the thing. You've got to look at this with a cold eye. And the bottom line is, yes, while those moments are great and they do put a smile on your face, overall, it absolutely failed in what it was trying to do.
And what you were saying, Noel,
does he know what he was trying to do with this story is the question I would ask.
I was just going to say, as a supplementary, Noel, you were saying about, you were listening to Timescales about whether this needed 2, 3, 4 episodes. It may be to slow it down and give it more, characterization or depth or whatever. The trouble is, and I'll say to you, Noel, we had Flux. We had 6 episodes of Flux, and that didn't hand together, did it?
No, I do agree with you. I mean, Flux had potential. It started off like all of Chibnall's eras. They actually started off pretty well. I mean, the woman who fell to earth, look at the ratings there. You had Spyfall Part 1, but it fell apart in the second part. You know, Flux was the same. It started off pretty decent. I think a lot of people were actually optimistic after the first episode of Flux. And, you know, he never seems to be able to hit those levels after he does the first episode. It's like he throws everything into it to get you hooked, and then he doesn't bother then for the next few episodes. The arrogance. It's arrogance as well, though. Um, and it is a pity. This could easily have been. You're right, Brendan. Flux was a disaster, and if you had tried it with this, it probably would have been a disaster. But we'll never know. We'll never know. I think time scales is definitely onto something here, though. You know, maybe 2 parts. Yeah, I'd say if you had a good, competent writer and you had Jamie Magidson Stone, as John said, directing the whole series rather than bringing in a series of directors, I think you would have been onto something here very interesting, and you would have been able to introduce the characters instead of introducing them all together over a certain period, a certain amount of episodes. Could slowly start bringing them all in the kitchen sink at it. But we got what we got, and it failed. So there you go. That's my.
And to be fair, when we mentioned Flux, I mean, Noel was on the panel. We have reviewed one of the Flux episodes, and actually, I think we did kind of conclude that within that episode, he gave a good treatment to the Sontarans. And so, again, if people are listening to us, we are fair. We really are. John, engaged, very. I'm never going to watch that episode again in my life, I don't think. And I'm adding that to Wild Beyond. The list is getting longer.
Oh, dear. You know what? I desperately want to say that I'll never watch it again either. Because that means I've not been conned by a snake oil salesman, as Chris Chibnall is. He's been lots of things tonight, hasn't he? He's been the H word, he's been a plagiarizer, now he's a snake oil salesman. But basically, he speaks with a forked tongue. He's selling us something which we really don't want, and he's adding in little trinkets to make it more palatable, to make it nicer, to make it sweeter, in order for us to like it more. And that's really, there's an arrogance with Chibnall, and now apparently with Russell Davis, who's returned as showrunner, who have control over what is effectively our programme, the British people, and now the international populations programme. And they seem to think they can use it in order to do either to have an agenda, to pursue the idea of a female doctor without knowing how to write for her, or to use it for political purposes, to, as I say, to pursue an agenda, while all at the same time treating fans, and not just fans like us, just general fans, people who like the programme and who tune into Doctor Who and like it, treating them with contempt, thinking that if we throw these trinkets at them, they'll all go, wow, isn't that wonderful? And forget that sitting behind it all is a pretty rotten story for which the writer's getting paid huge amounts of money. Now, I probably could have come up with a far better story than this had I just applied myself. And I'm not a TV screenwriter, nor am I particularly rich in ideas for television drama. But you know what? I would have gone somewhere and really thought it through if I was writing an important episode, writing out the character I had created, the 13th Doctor, celebrating the BBC's centenary as he was, and also encouraging previous characters to come back to celebrate their legacy. I'm sure I could have sat down and really thought through a really engaging story. He saw fit not to do that, and I can only assume that he saw fit not to do that because he did put all those trinkets in, because he must have known so much was missing in order for the story to stand on its own 2 legs, in order for everyone to like it. So will I ever watch this again? I will watch parts of it again. I will love to see Ian Chesterton, William Russell back as an addendum perhaps to watching the final episode of The Chase. I'll watch the flashbacks to those doctors to see how those doctors are now at the edge, if you like, and have some kicks out of that. I might watch the Jodie regeneration again, which I think was well directed, and the music really complemented. But will I watch the whole episode again? No, and that's the biggest indictment on this, because it didn't engage me. It didn't hold me. It was a series of parts, none of which lived up to make itself bigger than its whole, a bit bigger than the sum of its parts. So the Chris Chibnall era ended really as it meandered through on a damp squib.
Timescales, Mr. Positive.
What was the question again?
Well, it's whether you engage the audience.
Engaging.
Obviously, I wasn't thinking. No, I'm okay.
That's hard for me to say as far as it being engaging. I didn't understand what was going on. Okay, now that's not unusual for me watching Doctor Who at all. So, it engaged me because of the excitement about all of these actors being in the same episode. But I felt let down that each of them involved were not given enough development and time on screen. And that feeling initially, the first time I watched it, did overpower my feeling of being engaged in the story. So I wasn't understanding what was going on. I was wishing there had been more of these wonderful actors brought back being seen on the screen, which ultimately led to me feeling like it should have been longer. And not just longer, way longer. 2 parts, 3 parts, even 6 parts. I think this in 6 parts might have been something superior to Flux. Even with Flux's difficulties, which I think had to do with COVID. I'll have to go back and check that. I may be totally misstating that, but I think that it had to be shortened, which is why there wasn't enough development in the story to be able to properly understand what's going on.
That's true.
So, right. So as far as engaging, thank you, Noel. I wasn't sure about that. I remember reading something about that, how it had to be compressed and shortened. But as far as engaging, yes, on the level of being excited, but on a story level, which might actually come down to the writing, no. So, and then, of course, yesterday, when I fell asleep watching it, it wasn't because of it being something I wasn't enjoying. I was just really tired. I was trying to watch it in preparation for this panel, and I'm still watching it. It's getting near the end here. I think I've got this time just about right with the pauses. So, yeah, it was engaging on a level of excitement, but not engaging on the level of storytelling.
All right. Before I come to Michelle, I mean, Garbage is saying here, I only remember 2 things from the episode. I think Tegan fell off a ladder and landed on her feet. Well, yeah, she amazingly fell down what looks like a tunnel. Yeah. And then one of the doctors refused to wear robes. That's literally all I remember. And I have to say, if I wasn't actually asking us to review this, apart from all the bits that John mentioned, the companions and, the cameos and all the rest of it, I have to say, I was surprised at what was in it again. Did I like it? Well, I'll say so in a minute. Michelle, what your thoughts on how engaged you were?
I was more engaged the first time around because it was excitement that the doctors were coming back. But watching it the second time, I was not engaged. I was bored. And also, it doesn't feel like a regeneration episode. I think the Jodie Whittaker's doctor was cheated out of having a proper regeneration episode. It didn't feel like
full stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, another thing you talk about copying, the scene where Yaz is carrying the doctor, that's a direct rip off of Kaiser Van der Zani, where the Fifth Doctor carried back to the TARDIS. Yeah. But again, the motion of that, you don't see that in Power.
It's just, I just thought, don't worry, I'll do that. I just thought there was too much. I said in my intro at the beginning, was I engaged? I'm putting this under special measures on engagement because I kept going away and coming back to my screen because I was doing dialogue shots and everything. And I just thought, no, not again. You know, when it's suddenly, I'm going to start the Master's TARDIS, just out the blue. Oh, I love being an engineer. All these little tiny bits. As I said, there was too much regeneration vapor going around everybody in sight. And bless her, everybody should have a decent regeneration story, and you should be the main focus. And because of all this froth, I mean, the Five Doctors did it better because even though everybody had a moment, and some people, you know, they had cameos because they weren't real, you know, the Zoe and all of them, that they were ill-served in that bit. But, you know, the Brigadier had a good play in the Five Doctors, etc. But in this one, it was just, wow, who the hell was Vinder? Why did he come back? What was the point? Oh, he had a mobile phone. Oh, whoa. You know, all this joined up. There happens to be a planet that's just been moved there. Then we stick a child up there, and it's called a Quarenx that we've just made up because we need to make it
and
up.
the Rasputin storyline.
And that's for Bonnie. Yeah, the Rasputin.
That could have been good. A full episode of the Master actually being Rasputin, because Rasputin is such a fascinating and weird character. There's so much about him that's weird. His death is weird. The fact that they poisoned him with enough strychnine to bring down an elephant, and he was still alive when they threw him in the river because he's punching through the ice, and he drowned. I mean, that alone is a fascinating story.
This is one of the issues that, as a proper drama, in a certain order, you have an exposition, you settle us, where are we, what's the context? I have to say, I hate this new drama where they say Bolivia, and that's it. Or they'll say, you know, St. Petersburg, 1916, and then show me a nice shot. That there's my exposition. Now let's get on with it. Hold on a minute. That's all lazy. Like I said, it's like a game nowadays. It's like a video game. It's like, we're on level 4 now. Right, we're moving back to level 3. That's how it is. And so that bit I find very tedious. Where's the exposition? Problem introduced. Develop that problem. Sometimes you have a bit of a head-to-head. I'll jump franchises and say, you know, Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. You have a moment like that. Then you have the resolution. You have enough quiet time in it. So like you watch a classic thriller, you'll have the moments of the false jumps, don't you? And then you have the quiet. And then you have the actual jump and the real threat. We weren't getting that rhythm. We weren't getting that. And that's bad writing.
And of course, Brendan, with a criminal script, everything has to stop every 20 minutes for the Doctor basically to stop and go, here's what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, all that trashy dialogue that you pointed out earlier on, where it's sentence after sentence after sentence, where the writer feels he has to let the audience know, here's what the Doctor's doing, here's why she has to do it, and here's the way in which she's doing it, which confuses everybody, satisfies nobody, but he thinks he's being terribly smart and clever. And it dropped dead awful.
And so you could go on and on and on. I mean, I just think I was not engaged. I was bored. I was angry. I was upset. And I just kept thinking, a bit like what John was saying, that fans would do it better, but you don't let fans do it. I know somebody in the margin was saying that. No, you don't. Like, I think Timescales was saying, Hugh, what about the casual viewer? This is supposed to be winning people over. And so we jumped to our final thing, which will only probably take a minute or two before we give our big judgment, which is, of course... You know, I think I like the version that I'm hearing Noel do it instead. So Noel, I think I'll have to record a version where you just do but well, I'm not even going to put the screen up. I think we know it pretty well, and also I've lost it somewhere there. But
that's
it was 3.7 for the overnight, and then it built eventually after I think a few years to about 5 million. But it was.
You have to remember this was November when it's dark and miserable and wet outside.
Exactly.
This is supposed to be like the whole Centenary special. Wasn't there a whole week of special programs on the BBC for their 100th anniversary too?
Yes,
it was.
Yes, it was very exciting, Michelle. But yeah,
it made
about as exciting as last year's. About as exciting as last year's.
Want to pay the license fee twice.
So there we go. I mean, the ratings were very, very low. Remember, we always say this, it's a regeneration story. You'd expect everyone flooding back. And as John has said, it was November in Britain. You'd expect people sat in front of their TVs. Those two things joined together, you'd expect a big whopping audience. And it did not deliver. And of course, the line graph for the Jodie Whittaker era, starting with the one Noel talked about, the woman who fell to earth, the line graph goes dramatically from about 10.5 million all the way down to 2.2. Nobody can argue it worked. Nobody, because the line graph is ridiculous. Under Peter Capaldi, it was a bit more like that. Jodie's was like that. It was levelish with Mike Smith, and it I'm now doing maths. What the hell, Mike?
This is the reason why in soap operas, other sort of long-running programs, always have sort of big events. So they kill a character off, or they have, if it's Emmerdale, they do a Lockerbie type plane crash, and they have big events to think, well, we've lost viewers, we'll bring viewers in again just for this event, killing a character off, having a serial killer, having a train crash, a car crash, a pub going on fire, whatever it is. And the Regeneration Doctor Who is a similar event in that people who might have given up on Doctor Who, or are just casual viewers who come and go think, what's on TV tonight? Oh, tonight's the night they change Doctors. Let's watch that. Yeah. And such was the position of Doctor Who that it's basically, to use the Americanism, in the can, that it couldn't bring most people back. Most people chose to think to themselves, you know what, I might watch the last 5 minutes and catch up to see how this Doctor goes out, to see the regeneration, or they hear about what ultimately happened with Tennant coming back. But on the night itself, most people couldn't be bothered.
Yeah. No, because this is, to the Americans, this is up there with Who Shot JR. This is a regeneration is really up there. Yeah, it really is big TV.
And I think in the United States, it was only in the 100,000s of viewers.
That's all you need to know.
Yep. So that was the evidence. Right. Now, this is the bit for every individual panelist, of course, because we failed to do this last week, which is your judgment.
Why? What happened?
I don't know. I'll have to look. We should revisit that one. No.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we didn't. I had to text you all afterwards and say, what was your judgment? So, so this is where we actually say, what is our judgment of the actual episode? Okay. And so obviously you've heard from me, and unless somebody persuades me, my version of this, and like I said, I'll be intrigued. Too many buttons here, Michelle. I've been talking to the company about this, about the default. But basically, if I've got my numbers right, I am judging this episode, this story, as in special measures. That's the worst grading you can give it. I didn't expect I was going to give it. You've heard my reasons. I won't repeat them now. But basically, criteria 1 and 3 were the killer ones. And so that's where I stand. And obviously, if he's got his plaster on, so he's not going to be able to give his judgment, unfortunately. John, if I just go on then. I was going to go big screen, but what's your final judgment
on this? For once, Brendan, you and I are in glorious accord about where we would be for each of those criterions, and finishing on the fact that at this point in its history, Chris Chibnall, that well-known H-word and plagiarist, left Doctor Who in special measures.
Right. So I'll repeat to everybody, that is the lowest grading we can give. That is, and we don't do it lightly. We are fans. We love the program.
Indeed. And Brendan, the reason why we know we can say that, it's not just a question of this being an opinion now. As a statement of fact, we now know that this was going to go to a fade to black. The program was going to finish. And the very fact that it didn't was only because Russell Davies and Disney came in, and Bad Wolf as well, in order to give the program an attempt at a future. So the legacy of Chris Chibnall was that when as his era finished, Doctor Who 2 was finished.
Yeah. Absolutely true.
So timescales, we've got 4 criteria. Are you okay with the criteria so the 4 judgments? Sorry, I'll put them up here. It'll come up in a second. There it is. Outstanding, good, needs improvement, special measures. Overall, your judgment of that episode. Hold on, that's gone back to that. Sorry. So timescales,
Yeah,
what you
yeah, I've already
reckon?
made up my mind, Brendan. I'm going to go with overall good. And I certainly do understand the criticisms, the very well thought out criticisms of the story. And I've learned more today than I ever thought I would about this episode. But I'm going to go with overall good because I believe the positive aspects of it outweigh the negative ones. And we could go around all day long talking about what could have been improved, but mm, choosing to set that aside myself and look at it, the positives outweigh the negatives. And yes, it could have been so much better. It had such wonderful potential. I mean, look at the cast. My God, look at what could have been done from this. This could have been an entire season where we could have focused on each one of these returning characters easily. But to try to cram all of this into 87 minutes uh, seems like a task that wasn't quite possible to be able to do it right. And I think that it's overall good because of all of the positive elements of the music, the visuals, the acting, the cast, and I just wonder what would have happened if there was a team creating this
Mm.
that had writers, where we could have had
Yeah.
this as 8 different episodes with a different writer that is not also serving the position as the showrunner for some reason. So I think out of potential and what it could have been, that it is overall good. And I've enjoyed watching it today. And yeah, I'd watch it again for sure.
Okay, well, the other thing about the sense sphere, as I like to think, I've got a panel of diverse opinion. This is the key. No echo chamber here. We don't want that. That's boring. Noel, I haven't forgotten you. What is your judgment overall?
But you know, I agree with some what timescales has to say.
Cool.
But I have to look at this as, yes, there was a lot of potential, absolutely. He gave us some moments, absolutely. Um, maybe it's just me, maybe it's because of the negativity of the episodes that came before. I can't be as generous as time scale. Um, so, but again, insane that, see, the Chibnall one is the Chibnall era is kind of is a hard one. I will say this: if you analyze his whole, if we were to break down his whole era, there were lots of good moments, equally a lot of bad moments, and really bad moments. Though, that's the problem. Um, so it's an interesting one because you say special measures, but at the same time, in this episode, there were some really good moments. And I probably am judging this, to be fair, I'm probably am judging this because of what came before as well, which timescales brought up a few weeks back when we were on. There does seem to be a lot of that. And I'll put up my hand and say I probably do judge, but you could see the glaring issues in this, though. I don't think I am being too harsh. I think we've all on the panel have said that there are issues. And I'm like John, though. There's this, when you have a showrunner nicking, if you want to, I'll use the word nicking ideas and the best ideas and trying to do, and then to reenact them poorly is what I would put, the way I'd put it. Then you're not really doing yourself any favors. Series 11, he tried something new and it failed, and he reverted back to what worked, but he done that very poorly as well. And if he had been average even at doing that, I don't think we would be as critical of him as we have been throughout his era. He will be a forever stain, in my opinion, on this show. I agree with John. It's absolutely true. It's fade to black. It was game over. That original regeneration scene was going to fade in black. That's why the camera pans out, because it was going to fade to black. But then they reshot. Obviously, then when RTD came in, then they shot the scene. Obviously, they shot the second part of the scene, and the camera pans in, and then we see the regeneration. Then, but I never want to see him on Doctor Who again. I never want him to be part of Doctor Who again. And if it's true that RTD did try to get him back, I'd say, what the hell are you doing? Are you crazy?
He did, yeah.
I mean, seriously, are you actually crazy? Have you not been paying attention like Doctor Who fans have been? You know, the bottom line is we need to steer well away from his era. If Doctor Who has any hope of survival, that's exactly what you have to do. You have to get away from that as far as possible. You've got to try win your audience back. Listen, it's not about winning Doctor Who fans back anymore at this stage. It's about getting that average audience back. That's the audience he's lost as well. Remember that. If you don't get the normal Joe Soap watching Doctor Who anymore, fans alone are not going to keep this show going. I've understood that, especially with the New Who era. You do actually need that mainstream audience. And he seems like he's trying to chase an audience now, and that's what I'm worried about in RTD. But yeah, look,
Okay,
I'll leave it there. I've said enough.
That's three special measures and a good so far. So finally, Michelle.
Yes.
Where would you like to go?
I wanted to give this higher, but I'll have to go special measures. It was a disaster of an episode. Yes, it has some wonderful moments, and I will praise that to the hills. But the good does not outweigh the bad in this case.
Succinct, but we've said it all, haven't we, Michelle? It's been said. So I think it's fair to say, is it okay, timescales, that taking the collective of what's been said here.
I respect it. I got totally outvoted, didn't I?
Time scales, but hold on, time scales makes some great points. He makes some great points. He does.
No, he does, and it's recorded. That's what we do know. But obviously, there's 5 panelists, so we need to kind of obviously just come to a conclusion. That's why I just checked with timescales. It's recorded, and I appreciate, and that's why we want a diverse opinion. But there's 4 strong special measures. So I suppose it has to be. If I was an inspector of schools, that means it's special measures. It really does. Okay, so thank you for that, everybody. That was something I'm never going to do again. Power of the Doctor. Thanks for your time, everybody. Thanks for all your contributions in the thread there. Thank you to everybody who's mentioned and asked loads of questions there. We are back on Sunday discussing, can the Doctor Who program be changed so much that that it's a different program and it's still called Doctor Who? Where's our line in the sand? Where is our line in the sand that cannot be changed in this time of flux?
See flux.
Sorry. So, John, you wanted to say something then?
No, just you said flux there, and I got a shock. I
all right.
No, just what if I say this quietly before we finish? He's a hack.
Yeah, it might not pick that up. I don't think.
I hope not.
So, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you again. I hope. Bye.
Okay, great panel. Everybody have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Good one.